Hello, BookTube. All right, we're going to continue on with our Q&A for 4,000 subscribers for this channel. We left off with Patrick Kenny, and now we're going to start with Dee Dee at Brown Girl Reading, who says, have you been to Normandy? What do you think of France? I have been everywhere in the world except the larger archipelago of Australia, New Zealand, that sort of thing. So if you're wondering if I've ever been to Normandy, you merely have to ask, is it Australia? And if it isn't, the answer is yes. No matter what, no matter where. Your backyard, Racine, Illinois, Terre Haute, Indiana, South Pole, the North Pole, Tierra del Fuego. No matter where, if it's not Australia, the answer is yes. I have been to Normandy, yes, and I liked it quite a bit. I could have done without the food, but I like the people and I like the surroundings, certainly. And I've been to France, and I love France, except for Paris. Which is heresy, I know, to a lot of you. But Paris has had many, many opportunities to make a good impression on me, and it never has. It's made a bad impression on me every single time. So I'm not traveling anywhere anymore. But if I ever did, it wouldn't be to Paris. Let's see here. Laura Rodriguez says, I've been watching you since day one. Congratulations. I'm glad to see why the joy BookTube brings you. It really does bring me joy. Absolutely. Looking forward to the thaw up in Boston so I can take Frida out vlogging. So am I. That would be nice. Okay. Yeah, just very much looking forward to sharing. Oh, she doesn't have a question. Okay. I was just looking forward to sharing more of favorite Boston places, and I'm looking forward to doing that myself. Then Lara Croft says, congratulations, love your channel. Again, no question. Not sure you people understand how egomania works. I need the Steve-oriented questions. Let's go to Rusty Dogs with a Z. What do you think of sites like US Review of Books that sell review packages to authors? It's a tricky question. US Review of Books, sites exactly like it, I of course don't like it all, because although they don't say it explicitly, it's pretty clear that what you're paying for with them is not a review. You're paying for more than that. You're paying for a review and then for them to help you market your book. So of course the review will be positive. And I don't like stuff like that because it lends a veneer of objective appraisal where there isn't any objective appraisal. I mean, look at their name, US Review of Books. It sounds perfectly legitimate, but they're not an objective reviewing journal. And the reason it's a little complicated is because, for instance, Kirkus Reviews, where I review, I do a lot of work for Kirkus, and they also have a program where you can pay for a review. So it might on the surface look like that, but it's not at all. As Kirkus, as we tell authors all the time, self-published authors, the indie branch is where you can pay for a review, and you can sometimes pay for a longer review if you want. But those authors are told right up front, over and over again, what you're paying for is for Kirkus Reviews, one of the most respected review journals in the world, to notice your book. Your 150-page self-published book about how you see angels in clouds. What you're paying for is for Kirkus Reviews to notice your book. Whereas in the normal course of events, Kirkus wouldn't notice your book. You wouldn't get a Kirkus review one way or another. A Kirkus review, even if it's damning, is still great for your book. And the authors, most of them seem to get that, and they pay, and then the reviewer, me or any of my colleagues, are perfectly free to think what we want. You have to assess it objectively, maybe have to drop a line in about whether or not the book might appeal to someone, but you can bash it all you want. It's tricky. Outfits that are exactly like US Review Books, I don't, of course, approve of at all. They're just thinly disguised arms of the marketing department of a book. And that's, a new reader who doesn't know anything about the book and is wondering whether or not to invest their time and money. The whole purpose of things like this is to fool them into thinking the answer is yes, even if it's not. And that bugs me. Lillian Niesvender says, congratulations. No question, but thank you. TX Matt 2012 or 2112 says, any more videos coming on the Western canon? I've had this question a couple of times before, and I don't really know how to answer it. The whole point of the Western canon was to give you a complete, very abbreviated toe in the door of the great works of Western literature, so that it doesn't seem intimidating, so it seems accomplishable. So And it ended. I finished it. So I'm not sure what I would do with a return to the Western canon. Would I pick a time period and go into more depth? Or something like that? I don't know. If you have suggestions, that you just feel free to let me know, and I'll do it. Next is from a brick, whose icon picture is a brick. I recently began reading nonfiction because of your videos and became interested in ancient Rome. My question would be, what would your recommendations for books on the Roman Republic and Empire, as well as biographies of notable figures like Julius Caesar or Augustus Caesar? Well, of course, that's a whole video. It depends on the depth you want to go into, and it depends also, when it comes to any field of history, it comes also to your experience. How much have you read? How confident are you of the ground under your feet? So the recommendations would have to be tailored to that. I could make a whole video on the book recommendations for ancient Rome, not just history but biography. Maybe I should do that. That's actually a good idea. But I can't do it here. These videos are going to be long enough as it is. Rapacious Reads says, how do you know that you need to read 1,201 books this year if you don't keep track of the books you read? Well, I do keep track of the books I read. I have a spreadsheet that was made for me by Sam at Sam's Nonsense. But even if I didn't keep track of the books I read, I can still set a goal, right? I don't need to keep track of anything to set a goal. That's my goal for 2018, 1,201 books. Angela Filewood says, what prompted you to create a YouTube channel? Well, I've been, like so many people, I've been watching YouTube for a long time. Just loving it. This whole community devoted to talking about books, but not really thinking that I could do it. Thinking that not only am I not exactly photogenic, but that it would involve technology that I couldn't do, that I wouldn't sink the time into mastering. And it was largely Chris Rhodes from the Reading Roads, a now apparently extinct BookTube channel. It was largely him who said, that's not true. You can actually do this, and nudged me to do it, and very generously nudged his followers to pay attention. That's pretty much how this whole thing started. Megan Barton says, huge congratulations on 4,000. Thank you. My questions are, 1, how did you get into reading? I had a teacher. I had one teacher. I knew what reading was, but he's the one who showed me what it could be and changed everything. Number 2, what is the best book you have ever read? Well, it would be my favorite book, Ovid's The Metamorphoses, by the Roman poet Ovid. And number 3, I love the octopus squid that is present, the octopus/squid that is present in a fair few of your videos. Is there a story behind that? I just recently remembered the other day that the octopus hadn't been in the other room this whole time. The octopus's name is Elsa, and there is a story behind her. It's an incredibly sad story, but nevertheless, there is a story behind it, yes. N332 asks, why did you choose the names for your dogs? Seemed like the right idea at the time. Unless the name is chosen for me by someone else who's in a key position to do it, then I will just wait with a formless puppy or a new dog and just see what feels right. Sounds very nebulous. It is very nebulous, but it usually works. It certainly worked in Frida's case. Or in, for instance, the case of my beautiful Malin Moore, the pointer that I just recently lost. She looked exactly like a dog that a stray dog that I had seen that Malin had in Ireland. Exactly the same. They looked exactly the same. And so when I saw her, I thought, oh, why don't I just call her that? Let's see here. A View from the Bar. Remember that channel? Kingly Endeavors. Oh, come on to bigger and better things. Interviewed by major newspapers now. He asks, among the best writers you've known personally and the ones you know intimately, just from having read all of their output and biographies, are there common character traits that aren't remarked upon? Fran Lebowitz insists self-destructive behavior is pretty much a staple. Anything to that effect? I echo the words of Cecil Beaton that great photographers should be seen and not heard. Fran Lebowitz doesn't know what she's talking about. All she knows is that she herself has lung cancer and is an alcoholic, so therefore it must be true for everyone. That's actually not the case. I have known many authors personally. I've known many of them intimately. And self-destructive behavior is not a staple. Self-destructive behavior is, in fact, a weird exception. The kind of thing that other writers talk about. sticking just to writers here, not photographers, not painters, not anything else. Just sticking just to writers, self-destructive behavior is an enormous brakes on the process. And most of the writers that I've known who really loved it, who were really into it, worked on it boringly. They might have self-destructive behavior on the weekend when they weren't writing, or at parties or at weddings when they weren't expected to have a yellow Leo pad in front of them. But most of the time, 90% of the time, there was nothing like that at all. It was early to bed, early to rise, get your pages done. I'm sorry. I know that is very unattractive to the 21st century crowd, but it's nevertheless true. The surest way to make sure you get very little writing done is to indulge in self-destructive behavior. And the history of literature proves that amply. Let's see here. Run Right Reads says, I know you've done a lot of traveling. Have you ever visited Jamaica? Okay, here we go again. If it's not, have you ever visited? Have you ever been to? If the next word out of your mouth is not Australia, then the answer is yes. Anything, no matter what it is, no matter where it is, the little patch of ground where you make your garden in rural Wales, I have stood on that patch of ground. I have been everywhere on this planet, water and ground, except for Australia. So I have been to Jamaica, and I loved it. The only I stayed with a family for a few days. I hiked around a lot with a bunch of dogs. The only negative experience that I remember, I visited Jamaica several times, I think 4 times. And the only negative experiences that I remember ever were tourists, white American tourists, who were being so incredibly obnoxious that I couldn't get away from them fast enough. And also, I don't know how Jamaicans do it. I really don't. Jamaicans, in my experience, seem to be the friendliest and most even-keeled people in the world, but I don't know how you don't just straight out murder all of your American tourists. They're so obnoxious. So yes, I have been, and my experience was really nice. Sue's Book Nook says, tell us something about your childhood. Love the stories about your sainted ma. Do you have any brothers or sisters? I do. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? I had non-human playmates. We never thought about the future. They were incapable of it, and they weren't in a hurry to have me do it. So what I wanted to be when I grew up wasn't nearly as important as an interesting piece of old poop that we'd found. Were you obsessed about anything as a child, like collecting anything or playing sports? No. No. And the stories about my childhood are not hard to see. Go to your local dog park. Stand at the fence and look at what the dogs are doing. They run around, they catch each other's attention and lose it. They sniff the ground, they sniff each other's yoo-haws. That was my childhood. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. I had the best childhood in the world. And stories about my sainted ma, oh God, pull up a chair. It could take forever. She was a hoot. She was wonderful. I miss her. I actively miss her every day. Every day I see people out in the world who are angry and totally self-absorbed, and they're never going to learn anything. They're never going to grow. They're never going to change. They're never going to make anybody happy. They're never going to make anybody laugh. They've never done it in years. I'm not talking about the President of the United States. I'm talking about a whole bunch of people who are just like him, millions of people who are just like him, obsessing about silly details, angry about silly details, possessive or selfish about silly details, and never going to change. People like that. I know people like that, and my refrain has always been, if life were completely fair in a fantasy world, the good people, the ones who people care about, the ones who make people laugh and who are interested and are constantly learning and changing, would simply take the lives of those waste people and keep going. I would love it if at age 117 my sainted ma were still here. I would love to be able to. I talk to her 20 minutes every day, and I would love to be able to do that. And she's not. And the other good people that I know, they're going to age and die, and so are the bad people. But it's just there's so many bad people. I wish it were possible for some sort of escrow transfer so that the good people could just keep going. But no. And of course, that wish is the fundamental basis of all religion. It's a hard thing. It's true no matter who it is. It was true with my ma. It was true with my girls, with Lucy and Malin. The last morning that I saw Lucy, she looked me in the face. She could barely see me, sort of cataracts. But she looked me in the face. I looked her in the face, and I realized in an hour I'll never see that face again. And I'll want to. I'll continue to want to. It just doesn't, it's just a brutal cliff face that you just run into if you live long enough. Anyway, Susan Lee says, congratulations on 1,000. Thank you. Number 1, name the one book you would love to have a physical copy of. I don't want physical copies of any of my books. If there were a magic system, and it's not magic, it's coming. It's just, I can't imagine what it will be, but I know that it will happen. If there were a magic way for me to take a book that I've had forever and transfer it to a digital document, not just the text, but that particular book, here it is. Like for instance, if there were a box, like a shoebox size box with a slit in the end, and you put your book inside, and it, without needing to open the pages, it scans the whole thing, everything about it in full color with all the details. So the cover, or any annotations, the type font, everything. And at the other end, you get a digital file of that book. If that box existed, I would digitize every single thing I have here, and I wouldn't have 15,000 books anymore. So there's no book that I want a physical copy of. No, not even books that have been given to me as gifts with personalized inscriptions. I would put them in that box as well. The personalized inscriptions would be digitized. I'm sure that is coming, but maybe it's here already with printers, with 3D printers. But anyway, question number 2. I believe you once said you had ghostwritten a book before. If so, fiction or nonfiction, and what was the subject matter? I've ghostwritten many books, and I'm in the process of ghostwriting too at the moment. Fiction and nonfiction, all ages, including, I'd be willing to bet, 1 or 2 that you have heard about. I am available to writer friends of mine. When life gets too much, when the old creative juices aren't flowing the way they could, when they don't have any time, I'm available. And I don't have problems like that, so I've done it many, many times. Question number 3. Who do you feel is the most underappreciated modern author? I don't know that I would. Thanks to the huge literary echo chamber that we live in, all authors get a kind of appreciation. In terms of authors being better than they're largely given credit, there's a whole group of men's men, he-man, boys' adventure, historical novelists like Ben Kane or Giles Christian, who write really solid books. It's just they sometimes their books are dismissed as being, just historical Tom Clancy, that sort of thing. And I have read those books, as a fan of history, and I like them very much. They're very well done. So maybe something like that. Con Eagleton, Ben Kane, Giles Christian, stuff like that. Maybe I would like to see more people read them, especially more fans of historical fiction. Question number 4, where's Deb? I've had this question quite a bit from quite a few of you. At the moment, Deb is on jury duty. And I found this hard to believe when she was wondering whether or not she was going to be picked. I said, well, you are aware that the U.S. jurisprudential system says your 2 options are guilty or not guilty. Not guilty, not guilty, and I don't feel like it. Can I try tomorrow? You have to do one or the other. Deb is a low energy candidate, but she got picked, so she's on jury duty. She will return to this channel as soon as she's finished. I don't know when the legal system will be done with her. And we're up there on time again. All right, let's do one more. This is from Lindsay Robertson. I started reading Bruce Catton based on your video earlier this year, and his books are amazing. I agree. They're incredible. Amazingly good. Just hard to describe what he does with prose. It's do you have another author to recommend for Civil War history? Also, do you plan on continuing your presidential book recommendations? I do plan on continuing the presidential library. Yep, we're up to Thomas Jefferson. I do plan on doing that. And I have all sorts of other recommendations for Civil War history, but it's all potted stuff. It's all detailed stuff. Biographies, specific battles, specific theaters, specific threads. Nothing to approach Bruce Catton as a recommendation. His books, This Hallowed Ground, stuff like that, every American should read them and absorb them. Everyone should. They're a beautiful, beautiful realization of the subject. So nothing that comes close to that. All the rest of it would be spackling spots on a wall. Bruce Catton is the law. And let's stop there for now, because this is already a long video. We're going to finish with Lindsay Robinson's questions about the American Civil War, and up next is Brenda Lipko. So that'll be the next. We'll do that. See you soon, Book 2.